And I would like to welcome Megan Pistolese and Andrea Nieves. Megan is the Education Outreach and Communication Coordinator with SLELO PRISM. She holds a bachelor's degree in ecology, environmental education, and sustainability. She has 9 years of experience in the field of invasive species education and outreach and is an active collaborator among the PRISM network. And Andrea Nieves is New York State DEC's invasive species outreach and education coordinator. She has 8 years of experience in the field of environmental education and has worked for DEC in the urban forestry program, Trees for Tributaries program, and now the invasive species program. She's passionate about science communication and strives to foster an appreciation and care for the natural environment in everyone she meets. If you have any questions for our presenters, you're welcome to place those in the chat and I will read them out at the end of the presentation. But for now, I would like to switch it over to Megan.
Thank you so much for the introduction, and Andrea and I are very excited to speak with you all today. You should be seeing my slide now. So during this presentation, we will explore how metrics can be used to enhance education and outreach initiatives. We will also share some metric collection tools and examples from SLELO PRISM and showcase a PRISM-wide metric collaboration. So as invasive species management professionals, we understand the importance of education and outreach as tools to engage and inform the public on invasive species issues. Listed as the 4th recommendation in the New York State Invasive Species Comprehensive Management Plan, education and outreach bridges the gap between information and action, as it serves as a platform in which the public can learn how their actions and behaviors influence the introduction, spread, and management of invasive species through program messaging such as those featured on this slide. PRISMs engage in outreach in many ways. We host events, we share important messages in social media, and provide resources and showcase our work on websites. All these efforts can be measured and used to tell a story. And the story these numbers tell can be used to identify gaps and help answer questions, such as if a target audience is being reached, if a desired action is being taken, or if efforts are being dispersed evenly across a targeted region. Utilizing metrics to measure the impact of outreach efforts does require some considerations. An important thing to consider when measuring impact is the distinction between reaching and engaging an audience. Engagement reveals direct impact, whereas reach indicates the potential number of people you may impact at a conference or through a social media feed. For example, exhibiting at a conference may reach a large and broad audience, but not everyone at the conference may stop to engage at the exhibit and learn something from it, or better yet, act from what was learned. Or a social media post may appear in a user's feed, but the user may not read or engage with the content. Considering this distinction enhances outreach efforts as it reveals what efforts are meeting your desired impact standards. To more accurately measure the impact of events that have a broad reach, it is important to collect metrics that measure direct engagement, such as the number of people who took time to ask questions at a tabling event, or the number of likes, comments, and shares a social media post received. SLELO PRISM is applying these considerations and exploring the stories that our education and outreach metric efforts tell us. For example, we consider the percentage of each type of an event that we hold annually, as seen in this pie chart from 2019. And this helps us to strategize our efforts for the next year in a way that is more balanced and provides some insight as to the types of events our target audience is participating in and the level of engagement that attendees may have after an event. For example, those who attended an IMAP training or a guided hike or a paddle to learn to survey for specific invasive species could be considered more likely to engage in invasive species management or early detection activities than those who attend a conference or a K-12 event which are events that are geared more towards raising awareness rather than recruiting volunteers to aid early detection efforts. We also consider the percentage of events held in each of the counties within our PRISM. And this helps us to strategize our outreach efforts by identifying areas where more or less outreach may be needed, or where partnerships could be strengthened or even fostered. And this pie chart shows outreach efforts from 2019, where we learned that more outreach was needed in Oneida and Lewis counties. And we've since been fostering partnerships and focusing on enhancing our outreach efforts in those counties. So COVID changed the way that all of us thought about engaging with the public, and for SLELO, we started leveraging more virtual engagement options like our website, social media, email marketing to raise awareness, which weren't as heavily focused on in previous years. This shift also influenced the way that we collected and analyzed metrics for our outreach efforts to include the impact of these virtual engagements. Now, rather than only looking at event types and categories, SLELO is also considering the percentage of people engaged through these virtual efforts. And this pie chart is from our 2022 annual report and showcases the percentage of people engaged in outreach efforts calculated from the total number of people who attended our events, visited our webpage, engaged on social media posts, or talked to a watercraft steward. And I'd like to note that in this pie chart, events may have the lowest percentage of engagement compared to the other categories, but events often result in a higher quality impact. For example, the recruitment of a new volunteer has a higher level of engagement than a visitor to a website or that a social media post would likely have, and therefore it merits a larger impact status. And raising awareness of invasive species can be hard. Often it is a shot in the dark if a message reaches a target audience, let alone if that audience will be inspired to act in response to the message. There are many tools available that can be used to collect metrics for a variety of outreach initiatives. The tools that SLELO has been using are listed on the slide, which many of you are likely familiar with, so I'll just give a quick overview, and I'm happy to give demos on these tools offline. So email marketing tools like Constant Contact or MailChimp are a great way to streamline your email outreach and collect stats such as open and click rates, which are very helpful for gaining insight as to what topics are popular in newsletters or blogs. And Meta Business Suite collects engagement and reach data for Facebook and Instagram and has downloadable spreadsheets. And Bitly can be used to create custom URLs or QR codes that can be tracked. And Google News search can be used to find media mentions for your program, and the URLs can be put into coveragebook.com to generate an estimated audience reached for your media mentions, which are a really helpful way to measure the impact of your press releases. Some of these tools have been utilized to collect metrics in a PRISM-wide level, which we're going to share a little bit more about later.
All right, so I wanted to talk about a project that the PRISM Outreach and Education Committee has been working on starting late last year. And so that committee includes me, some other statewide partner education and outreach coordinators, and then all of the PRISM outreach and education coordinators as well. So we know that each PRISM produces their own annual report each year, which celebrates their accomplishments. But our group wanted to specifically showcase the efforts of the network as a whole. And in fact, one of the objectives of our committee is to showcase the accomplishments of the PRISM network through the collection of metrics. So we work together to gather information from all of the PRISM 2021 to 2022 annual reports and create an infographic, which we're going to show you, that highlights some of the combined efforts of the network. So this is kind of the way that we are telling our story. And so the next few slides, Megan and I are going to showcase the infographic in its different parts, along with some of the successes that we found, some of the challenges that we've run into, as well as our needs and our plans moving forward. So this slide is a little bit of a behind the scenes look at the work that we did. This is our infographic spreadsheet where we all went through and input all of the data that we could find from those 2021 through 2022 PRISM reports. So we kind of did that first, and then we came together as a committee and we chose and agreed upon the metrics that we most wanted to showcase, and also those that were the most widely collected among all of the PRISMs. So the purpose of gathering the metrics like this all together is never to compare the work of the PRISMs. You can't really do that. Everybody has their own regions, their own unique challenges, and their own unique programs. But we wanted to consolidate the data together so that we can more easily visualize the success as a whole network together statewide. So like I said, even though the PRISM network as a whole shares a unified approach to invasive species management, each PRISM also pursues initiatives that are unique to their region. So all of the metrics that end up on this infographic that we're going to talk about today, it's not the complete story, but it is the best way that we can showcase our successes as an entire system and our accomplishments on a statewide scale.
This slide represents the top of the infographic and explains that the PRISM network is New York State's integrative approach to invasive species management and consists of 8 PRISMs with over 877 and growing partner collaborations. And as we continue collecting metrics over the years, we expect to see the number of partners grow. And this tells a story about widening our sphere of influence and getting other organizations involved in invasive species work. And it tells a story about caring and collaborating. This slide showcases PRISM early detection surveys and invasive species management through control work. The PRISM network surveyed over 1,900 sites for invasive species considered to be a priority in their regions. This number includes terrestrial and aquatic site locations, and over 6,200 acres of land and waters were protected through invasive species control applications, including chemical and non-chemical treatment methods. We encountered challenges collecting these metrics as not every PRISM reports these numbers in the same way. For example, some PRISMs report survey efforts by the number of highly probable areas surveyed, while others record the number of locations such as parks or priority conservation areas visited. Or control work was reported in different metrics such as acres or the numbers of plants removed or number of sites in which treatments occurred in. So more will be addressed regarding these challenges, including collaborating for metric standardization.
Before we go straight into the challenges, a few successes that we had. So within this 2-year period, PRISM's hosted over 1,300 events across New York State, and the PRISM social media platforms gained over 23,000 followers to date and counting. And in just 2 years, we've directly engaged almost 299,000 people in invasive species outreach. And so this number includes event attendees, as long with the number of engagements acquired from social media and other outreach platforms such as email marketing. And so when we're referring to engagement, if you remember from earlier, it's more than just the reach. So we're talking specifically about the people that were directly spoken to at an exhibit or presentation, rather than just the number of people who passively attended the event or happened to walk by. And so the same idea for the social media stats on here. This is the number of people who liked, commented, shared, clicked on a post, rather than just the number who viewed it. And along with this really robust engagement data, also there was 900 volunteers who were actively trained to use IMAP invasives.
There is a statewide effort to control water chestnut. However, not all prisms actively record the treatment data for water chestnut, while other prisms play a more active role. Furthermore, not every prism records water chestnut removal data the same way. Some report it in pounds removed, while others may report in the total acres treated. Through our metric collection, nearly 700,000 pounds of water chestnut was reported to have been removed during 2021 and 2022. This data could be significantly improved if every water chestnut organizer agreed to report their metrics to a single platform like IMAP Invasives in a standardized unit. So there will be an IMAP training for water chestnut removal organizers covering this topic on April 4th. Please reach out to Mitch O'Neill with IMAP for details.
So another challenge that we uncovered in this process has been the reporting on ecological restoration. As we know, restoration is a primary objective in the New York State Invasive Species Comprehensive Management Plan, and it's an important management component to successfully reduce the impacts of invasive species while also improving ecosystem function and resiliency. So through this metric exploration project that we've been doing, we learned that the restoration efforts following invasive species management are underreported generally among the PRISM network, which is why you see this big question mark on the slide. And so we're hoping as restoration becomes a more integrated component among the PRISM and partner networks, recording efforts in a unified and standardized way, perhaps acres restored, will be necessary to capture the full accomplishments. So it has been posed that as a starting point, there are standardized metrics for restoration that have been defined by the Society of Ecological Restoration. So that could possibly be used as a guide to connect academic research and practitioners.
These metrics highlight stats contributed to the statewide Watercraft Inspection Steward Program, or WISP, through the PRISM network. And I'd like to note that not all PRISMs are directly involved with the management of WISP. So these metrics on the slide do not reflect the accomplishments of the entire statewide program. The numbers on this slide were provided by PRISM representatives involved with WISP and combined 2021 and 2022 stats, showing that nearly 170,000 watercraft inspections were given and over 11,000 aquatic invasive species were intercepted by watercraft stewards. And the WISP program has great data and is a prime example of how metric standardization can improve metric collection and ultimately provide more clarity for collaborative accomplishments.
So through this presentation, we hope that we've showcased various ways that metrics can be used to enhance invasive species outreach efforts, and also highlighted the value in collaboration. We've begun leveraging our metrics to showcase accomplishments of the PRISM network at a statewide level, which I think is an accomplishment in itself. The infographic that we walked you through is going to be showcased at the upcoming Invasive Species Expo, which is September 24th to 26th. So save the date for that if you haven't already. And also through this exploration of metrics that we've collected, we realized that working together to unify and standardize the way that we collect data would provide a clear representation of our accomplishments as a whole state and make it easier for us to tell our stories of success. There are a few efforts that we want to improve on. So metrics for early detection surveys, invasive species control work, water chestnut removal efforts, and restoration in particular.
And the PRISM Education Outreach Committee will continue discussions regarding the best way to move forward on this topic and invite our PRISM leaders to join in on the discussion. And SLELO will continue to improve the way we collect and utilize metrics for our program. And I'm personally interested in learning more about how others collect and utilize metrics to strategize their programs. So if anyone is interested in sharing this information, please do reach out to me. And now we'd just like to open the floor to any questions or open discussion that you may have